The scandal wasn't born out of wrongdoing, it was born out of misinterpretation. A photo, a rumor, a misread gesture, fragments of a public life rearranged into a story people wanted to believe. When Jungkook's name began appearing on US forums and entertainment sites, it was never neutral. It came with accusations, with speculation, with noise. People who had never listened to his music suddenly decided what kind of person he was. The image of the youngest BTS member became a canvas for projection. An idol turned into a myth, then into a controversy. But here's what made the story twist. Jungkook didn't fight back the way most celebrities would. He didn't release statements, didn't stage a rebuttal, didn't rely on management to clean up narratives. Instead, he did something that the American audience wasn't prepared for. He let time prove him right. He kept working, he showed up, he performed, he sang better, danced sharper, lived quieter. Every time people expected chaos, he gave them control. Every time they looked for apology, he gave them excellence. It was the kind of quiet defiance that American audiences eventually began to respect, not because he explained himself, but because he never stopped embodying his own truth. In a country where controversy often fuels fame, Jungkook reversed the formula. He made consistency more interesting than scandal. He made silence more powerful than statements. His transformation wasn't about repairing an image, it was about outlasting misunderstanding. That endurance, the way he stood still while the noise swirled, became the foundation of his rebirth in America. The earliest stage of that rebirth happened not on a stage, but online. As the American digital audience moved from hate to curiosity, something subtle began to shift. People who had once ridiculed him started watching clips longer, re-watching performances, noticing technical perfection they couldn't ignore. When the storm of negativity reached its peak, Jungkook's live performances on American shows became unavoidable proof of his authenticity. The breath control, the eye contact, the minimal choreography adjustments that Western viewers had never seen in their pop stars, those became his language of truth. America began to realize that the scandal wasn't about him. It was about the discomfort people felt when faced with someone who didn't fit their template. Jungkook didn't look like the Western definition of rebellion, yet his very existence was an act of it. He didn't need chaos to prove freedom, he carried it in control. That's when the narrative started collapsing. When Jungkook appeared on major US stages, from the VMAs to talk shows, the commentary began changing tone. The same outlets that once used his name for clicks were now quoting his work ethic. Producers who had dismissed K-pop idols as manufactured began admitting that Jungkook operated at a level of precision Western artists rarely touched. He wasn't a product of the system. He was the system perfected, disciplined, relentless. This evolution didn't happen overnight. The transition from most hated to most loved was gradual, almost imperceptible. It began with small cultural recognitions. An American vocal coach praising his control, a TikTok trend using his voice, an athlete working out to his songs. These fragments built momentum until Jungkook was no longer that guy from BTS. He was the guy the US music scene couldn't ignore. What makes this transformation compelling isn't redemption in the traditional sense. Jungkook didn't fall from grace and then climb back. He simply walked straight while everyone else tried to pull him sideways. The hate couldn't anchor him because he had already found grounding in his craft. And that steadiness, that refusal to participate in the noise, turned into magnetism. America doesn't always reward humility, but it does recognize authenticity when it's impossible to fake. Jungkook's American acceptance wasn't orchestrated by PR. It was earned through exposure, the kind that strips away artifice. Every stage appearance became a test. Would he survive the scrutiny of a culture that loves to destroy what it can't define? Each time, the answer was the same. He delivered without fracture. His live vocals were consistent. His charisma was measured, not exaggerated. He projected strength, not by domination, but by precision, something rarely celebrated in the West, where spectacle often outweighs substance. When his solo tracks began charting across the US, the industry had to confront a truth they had avoided. Jungkook wasn't riding on BTS's fame anymore. He had crossed the border between admiration and acceptance. He wasn't just known in America, he was trusted. That's a far greater achievement than virality. What fascinated US audiences most was the absence of drama. In a landscape that feeds on apology tours and controversy-driven marketing, Jungkook built momentum by staying clean, deliberate, focused. The scandal that once defined him turned into background noise. His composure became the new conversation. That reversal wasn't luck, it was mastery of self. There's something profoundly American in the way Jungkook was ultimately embraced. The culture loves a comeback, but even more than that, it loves clarity. When people finally saw him without the filters of bias, they saw something rare: a performer who didn't compromise his origin or artistry to gain Western validation. Jungkook didn't adapt to America. America adapted to him. That shift redefined what global means in the modern music industry. The early hate he received revealed a deep truth about cultural tension. Western audiences often romanticize authenticity, yet they struggle when it comes in unfamiliar forms. Jungkook's perfection, his discipline, precision, control was misread as inauthenticity because it didn't align with Western ideals of rawness. But over time, that same perfection became proof of his integrity. What they once labeled robotic became transcendent. By the time American critics began to reassess him, Jungkook had already evolved beyond their expectations. His sound had shifted: darker bass lines, grittier vocals, a maturity that refused to cater to formula. The same voice, once accused of being too clean, was now recognized for its range, tone, and emotional weight. Without announcing reinvention, he achieved it. In retrospect, what made Jungkook's transformation so striking is that it mirrors America's own contradictions. The country that first resisted him for being too flawless now celebrates him for being the definition of professionalism. The same media that amplified his scandal now documents his perfection. That irony isn't accidental. It's the result of a performer who never changed direction, even as perception flipped. Every phase of his career in America reads like a lesson in resilience without aggression. He didn't chase acceptance. He waited for understanding to catch up. That quiet dominance, the ability to let excellence speak longer than gossip, is what turned him from target to standard. Now, when American artists cite inspiration from Jungkook, it's not because of his fame, it's because he demonstrated that global relevance doesn't require conformity. He made discipline cool. He made control aspirational. He made calm louder than controversy. In today's American music landscape, Jungkook stands in a space few international artists have ever reached, not just as a guest, but as a participant shaping the sound and mood of pop culture. The scandal that once defined him has dissolved into history, but its impact remains. It forced him to grow in the public eye without surrendering. That experience sharpened his image into something indestructible. And in that process, he taught America something it rarely learns: that mystery can coexist with accessibility, that humility can stand beside dominance, and that silence can be a form of power. Jungkook didn't just survive being misunderstood. He used misunderstanding as a mirror, reflecting the limitations of the system that tried to categorize him. The reason America loves him now isn't just because he's talented. It's because he represents a kind of truth that can't be destroyed, the kind that doesn't beg to be seen, yet always is. When the noise finally quieted, what remained was the truth that Jungkook never had to rebuild anything, he only needed to be seen clearly. The so-called scandal that once seemed damaging became a defining filter. It separated those who judged from those who observed. By the time American audiences looked again, they found not a pop idol trying to fit in, but a performer who had quietly redefined what fitting in even means. Jungkook's strength lies in his refusal to chase approval. He doesn't adjust himself to trends, he shapes the rhythm around him. That's why his American resurgence felt organic. It didn't rely on campaigns or press tours. It came from repeated exposure to excellence. Every live performance, every collaboration, every interview revealed the same calm precision that once made him misunderstood. But now, that same control read as confidence. The same silence that once looked cold now looked powerful. When Jungkook worked with American producers, the dynamic was different. He wasn't treated as a feature or a global token. He was treated as the standard. His process recording lines until every breath was right, rehearsing until the camera couldn't catch imperfection, became an education for those who underestimated him. He turned skepticism into study. He didn't explain his worth, he demonstrated it. American listeners began to feel the shift through sound first. His solo tracks carried a depth that was both modern and timeless, the precision of pop, the grit of R&B, the soul of restraint. His delivery, clean yet weighted, carried the kind of sincerity that cuts through production. For the first time, American pop culture wasn't just consuming Jungkook, it was adapting to him. And that's the real story. Not scandal, but evolution. Not redemption, but recognition. The industry that once used his name for controversy now uses it as currency. Brands align with him not for noise, but for credibility. Journalists write about him not as a phenomenon, but as a figure of consistency. In a culture addicted to chaos, Jungkook became the calm that everyone needed but didn't expect. His transformation isn't a story about changing perception, it's a story about endurance. He waited out the misunderstanding, and when the smoke cleared, he was still standing stronger, sharper, impossible to ignore. America didn't just forgive Jungkook. It realized it had been wrong about him all along. Today, his name carries a different weight. It's not attached to scandal or speculation, it's attached to standards. Every stage he steps on, every record he breaks, every silence he keeps, all of it reminds people that authenticity doesn't shout. It just lasts longer. From the most hated to the most loved, Jungkook didn't escape the narrative. He rewrote it. And that's why, in the heart of American pop culture, he isn't just accepted, he's undefeated.